Last week I said that Dusk was the greatest game I've ever played. Here's a clip if you don't believe me. Dusk is the greatest game ever made. However, allow me to present a counterpoint to that statement.
And unity. And unity.
This was a game that I got a lot of requests to cover at some point, and I originally planned to sit on it for a while I did videos on other games, but then I thought, fuck that, I want to play F.E.A.R, but I've already played F.E.A.R, so instead I played Trepang2. Before I go any further, here's a big fat spoiler warning, because I'm going to be covering this bitch from tits to taint, so if you got plans to play this thing for yourself, then get your ass off this YouTube page and go do that, but don't forget to come back and like and subscribe and comment and give money, and actually just give me your debit card information. Fuck that, give me your credit card info, but first I'm going to talk about the game. If you're unfamiliar with Trepang2, allow me to give you the elevator pitch. It's F.E.A.R, but made in 2023. Take the gameplay of that OG classic, speed up to Mach 5, smooth out the movement, make the particle effects even more GPU destroying, and remove the J-horror stuff and replace it with SCP-style creepypastas. Gameplay summary. You are the main protagonist of the entire FPS genre, a force of nature that contains the combined killing power of the Doomslayer, Duke Nukem, Blowjob, Blatzkowitz, and every single playable character in every Call of Duty game ever. As such, you are essentially the living personification of gun violence, who makes use of a small arsenal of futuristic weaponry to disassemble your enemies. While the armory at your disposal isn't as big as something like Battlefield 4's collection of 200 usable weapons and like 20 unique ones, that ends up being a good thing because it means that each firearm serves a distinct purpose. Do you want to get precision shots on enemies? Use the pistol. Want to pin baddies to the wall? Use the penetrator. Want to vaporize miscreants? If you've played F.E.A.R, you already know what the answer to that one is. Despite the distinctiveness of each gun, they are all useful. Each one fills a very specific niche and is fit for situations that other guns are weaker in. This means that the player is encouraged to switch between each weapon as different scenarios arise, except you can't because there's a fucking 2-weapon carry limit. What the fuck? That's right, this game is almost perfect, but there's that one enormous flaw. What Nimrod elected to constrain your carrying ability to 2 guns? Weapon carry limits in FPS games are completely haram and should honestly be illegal. The original F.E.A.R let you carry 3 guns, F.E.A.R 2 let you carry 4, and that game sucked. What's the excuse here? The silver lining, though, is that when you run out of ammo, or if you just get bored of killing people with bullets, you can also kill them with your body, since you can make use of melee attacks to start caving in skulls, or you can take hostages and do all kinds of nifty things with them. It doesn't end there, because I wasn't exaggerating when I was hyping up your power level earlier. The main character is literally a super soldier who can enter a slow-mo reflex mode whenever you need a moment and chew it over with Twix. This slow motion ability makes your already grossly overpowered character borderline unstoppable, because while everyone else is going really slow, you're going really fast, meaning that enemies are easier to hit and you are harder to hit. The second ability is a cloak, but I hardly used it because stealth is for pussies and I'm almost offended at its inclusion. But gameplay is only one part of the equation. It may be the most important part, but there is still room for a story, because John Carmack was wrong about this subject, because unlike porn, I do not pleasure myself to video games. Most of them anyway. What is the narrative of Trepang2? You're a super soldier who breaks out of prison and kills like 1,000 people. That's pretty much the whole thing front to back. Alright, there might be a tiny bit more about, like, secret societies and shit. Basically, you're being tested on at some secret facility, but then you escape and join a group called Task Force 27 that is dedicated to destroying the Horizon Corporation, your stock standard diabolical megacorp that specializes in human experimentation and finding ways to circumvent ad blocker. Like any game that's halfway worth a shit, it doesn't take too long to get into the action. There's a single cutscene, you have to sneak by a few dudes while you're stuck in handcuffs, and then before you know it, you've got a gat and you're taking lives. Like most shooters with regards to the arsenal, Trepang2 starts you off slow. You get your hands on the standard loadout, a simple pistol that you can use to one-tap motherfuckers, and a Vector from Modern Warfare 2. Not real life, they made the gun specifically for Modern Warfare 2, don't fact check me. It's fun, don't get me wrong, I like using both of these guns, but this is a spiritual successor to F.E.A.R, so anyone who's played that knows that the game doesn't really start until you get the shotgun. Now, there's a lot of pressure on this game in that department. The original F.E.A.R is widely considered to have the best shotgun in FPS history, so it's a hard act to follow. Up until I got it, I was wondering to myself, is the shotgun in this game as good as the one in F.E.A.R?
Cover it, go! I'm on the move!
Yeah, it's pretty good. No, for real, this shotgun might actually be even better than the first one. This thing is fucking destructive. When I play shooters, the shotgun is normally one of my most used weapons, but man, this thing was nearly impossible to put down. It's such a force of nature. It just eviscerates everything you point it at. It's amazing. And the best part is that it gets even better the further you get into the game. It's not enough that the guns already wreck shit, you can upgrade them to wreck even more shit. Put a scope on your AR to pop helmets from afar, give the grenade launcher homing rockets, and replace your regular shotgun shells with dragon's breath so you can burn things. To sum up, we're 30 minutes into the game already feeling stronger than the Doom guy, and we can only go up. The more cynical among the audience is probably raising an objection at this point, asking if this game is difficult at all since all I've been doing is bloviating about the main character's Goku tier power level. Allow me to answer that question visually as opposed to audibly. I was only playing on hard, by the way. Trepang2 takes a glass cannon approach to player and enemy balancing. You output a lot of hurt, but at the same time, bullets make you sad, which is a problem because the enemy has a lot of those. As a result, if you're not careful, death can be a frequent occurrence. As the game makes clear each and every time, there is a cyclical nature to the narrative unfolding here, and interruptions to said cycle are met with a respawn at the last checkpoint, and this growing inner need to commit vicious acts of brutality. Despite the high difficulty, the game never gets frustrating though, or at least it didn't to me, because the core gameplay loop was so much fucking fun that I would gladly replay the same area like 30 times just because the shit was so entertaining. Best part is that we're just now done with the first level. After breaking out of the facility in which you, Subject 106, was being held, you get inducted into a mysterious group called Task Force 27, who give you some gear and access to their very empty base of operations. This serves as the game's hub basically, the place where you select missions, play dress up, dick around in VR, and read bios on all the cool and interesting people that your employers want you to kill. My personal favorite is the guy who has a suit and tie on, but also like a fucking military-grade gas mask. That's a funny combo. With my stint in prison behind me, I accepted my first official mission with the task force, an all-out assault on a hospice facility. I heard that there's geriatrics here who can't afford a plot in the graveyard, so we need to go in and open up some slots for people who can afford to die. I was really surprised how good of a setting a hospice makes for a high-octane massacre. One thing that really enhances the experience is that the enemies are fairly intelligent in this game. Not as advanced as F.E.A.R, but smarter than your average COD NPC that's basically a glorified crash test dummy. I especially like how as the battle goes on, you can hear their radio chatter become more frenzied and chaotic as they realize that they're going up against the main character of a John Woo film. After clearing the upper half of the hospice, I descended to the lower realms, where the experience shifted a little bit in pace. Apparently the basement levels had a bit of an outbreak, something spreading down here, and you get a preview of what happens whenever I eat a KFC meal. Anyway, it appears that the retirees down here have gotten rowdy since the nurses haven't been abusing them enough, so I need to step in and start boomer bashing with some 12-gauge buckshot in order to bring stability back to the bingo nights. After clearing out the establishment more efficiently than coronavirus, we get informed by our handler that actually rich old people don't even want this facility anymore, and instead of converting it into affordable housing, we should just blow it up. So we do that, but then the fucking Mothman shows up to stop us. I'm dead serious. The game calls him the fucking Mothman. Oh my god, this is awesome. After accomplishing what Richard Gere could not, the map back at base lights up with a bunch of new missions. One thing about Trepang2 that some people might find as a negative, and that I kind of do too, is that if you just stick to the main story, you'll probably be done with the whole thing in like 2 hours, since there's maybe like 5 required missions in total. If you want to get a little more out of this game though, that's what the side missions are for. If you'll closely examine the map, you'll notice 2 different colored dots next to each mission. Orange means required, green means optional. The thing with the side missions is that they're not as in-depth as the main ones, a lot less set-piece driven and a little more sandboxy. Stuff like defending an area from hordes of grunts or search and destroy missions where you just go to a place and fucking kill everyone there. It's great. Most of them aren't worth talking about individually, but there is one mission that is kind of like a diet main story thing where you go to this research site in the middle of Arkansas, that's the real horror of this mission, and you find out that everyone at the location has been absorbed by this like organic parasite that's merged with the servers or something, I don't know, but it was a pretty spooky mission. As far as the content of the main levels though, the third one is a location in the UK known as Jorvik Castle. The goal here is to infiltrate the structure, and by infiltrate I mean invade and kill everyone with unsilenced weapons, and assassinate the cult's leader, a mysterious figure known only as the Patriarch. The beliefs and creed of the cult are never properly illuminated for the player, but that's okay because we're not here to achieve gnosis, we're here to achieve catharsis, and do you know how we're going to do that? That's correct, violence. Oh hey, cool, combat heroin. I wonder what happens if I shoot up. Oh boy. I don't know about y'all, but this shit is virtual Viagra. I mean, look at these animations. Oh my lord, I'm messing in my britches. All this slaughter and mayhem has ignited some curiosity in me though, and led me to ask a question that I'm sure has been on your mind as well while watching this. Trepang2 is cool, but what about its predecessor? Where did it spring from? What is Trepang1? To answer this question, I had to descend into the darkest and most obscure corners of the internet in order to acquire a copy of this ethereal title. After searching high and low, I finally came upon a download for this elusive game and booted it up, eager to see what was in store. I don't get it. Whatever, back to Trepang2, and we've got a boss battle with the Patriarch. Dude's a kindred spirit though, in the sense that he can also use a bunch of different guns and zoom around the battlefield. He does all of this while dropping banger one-liners too that make him seem like a total badass.
Beware of old men in a profession where men die young.
Unfortunately for him, I am the main character, so he does not survive the encounter with me. After decimating yet another non-profit organization, I returned to my home and geared up for the next mission. Welcome to Siberia, and more importantly, welcome to Site-83, a former Soviet research facility that was abandoned, then reopened by Horizon, then abandoned again. We go there to investigate what they could potentially be interested in, only to discover that all human life has disappeared, and the only remaining inhabitants are whatever the fuck this thing is supposed to be. It's a fairly standard affair. You just sneak around an abandoned research facility, avoiding monsters, reading text logs about how everything went to shit. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nah, this ain't what I think it is. I'm being pranked. Nope, I was wrong. The devs actually just said fuck it and put the backrooms in this game. I really respect that. It's also surprisingly creepy too. I'm not super familiar with the lore, collective storytelling of this whole phenomenon, but this was probably my favorite part of the game because of how atmospheric it was. I was creeped the fuck out. Since this game was made by geniuses though, not only are there sections where you get spooked in the back rooms, there's also sections where you go sicko mode and get into gunfights, all while being surrounded by the same apparitions that have been shadowing you. So there's all this gunfire and enemies screaming and explosions going off and there's shadows on the wall, and when it gets quiet you can hear the spooky whispers, and it's just such an awesome intersection of seemingly incongruous design elements. At the end of it all, though, you discovered that the force behind this anomaly is the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's an otherworldly object that has powers beyond our comprehension. It could yield any number of scientific or intellectual breakthroughs, but it's bad as a health bar, so we shoot it and it blows up. We get back to base and are informed by the Task Force 27 director that we've blown up a sufficient amount of shit to warrant advancing to the last level, which is the Horizon Corporation's headquarters. For this final engagement, the assignment is to kill every single security guard, wage cut, contract worker, and heavily armed mercenary in the building. This is where every single skill you've learned over the course of the game comes into play, where your eyes roll into the back of your head and you turn to a clone of Chow Yun Fat. It's just one long gauntlet of blood, guts, and particle effects. I also love how at this point most of the enemies have given up and you can hear them talk to each other over the radio about how fucked they are.
Master's gonna come in and kill all of us. There was F.E.A.R, gentlemen.
He's right though, none of them survived. This level caps off with the final boss fight against the CEO, or more accurately, the 4,000 second worlders that he's hired to defend him while he uploads his mind to a cloned body or something. I got brain bashing and proceeded to further depopulate Eastern Europe as well. I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, and then I confronted the CEO and punched him in the face. Very hard. Alright, that's the end of the game. You go back to base to celebrate your victory and instead get hit with knockout gas because you're no longer needed and now your buddies are going to be assholes and try to kill you. It goes about as well for them as you'd expect.
All units be advised, Sector 106 is active. Containment measures are in effect.
So now you have to kill everyone you become friends with throughout the game, but it's okay because it's still really fun. You can also get a text log that shows you what your guy looks like. Dude definitely could have had a feature in radio. Eventually, it's time to fight the actual final boss, Subject 107. He's like you, except better in every single way. Faster, stronger, more durable, a katana. This is a hard fight that only gets harder after he slices off your fucking hand, and so you have to do the whole rest of the level with a clipped wing. Despite it all though, he has one major weakness. He's not the main character. Oh yeah, by the way, earlier in the game, the director showed you this secret nuke in the center of the base. That might come in... There's a DLC now? Fuck that, give me Trepang2. Be a real man though, it should be another sea cucumber game, do that. But for real though, this game kicked all sorts of ass. If you like F.E.A.R, if you like shooters, if you like good games, then you owe it to yourself to pick this thing up and give it a whirl. Now, if you'll excuse me, I want to beat this fucking thing again because it's just that awesome, and I gotta unlock all the extra stuff. That video took forever to make, but it was fun, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you all enjoyed watching it. I don't really have anything else to say here in the outro other than the standard, you know, like and comment and subscribe and do all that good schnazzy stuff. But, oh yeah, one other thing, I'd like to thank the patrons over on Patreon, Spec Teams 1 Slingshots, Joe Sneaks, Zorio, the Gazer Patron, and Lev, as well as the members here on YouTube, Saiga, Brigador24, and Grungles. Really appreciate y'all. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got this go around, so I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.